What is up, you awesome people, and a long time no see to a lot of you too. I am Gamer Eddie, and today I want to rank 80 Mario games. Now, technically this is all the Mario games I know up to this point in a certain way. I won't include Mario Bros. Wonder since I don't know much about that yet, and this list is going to include every single mainline 2D and 3D Mario game, as well as every Mario Kart game, excluding Arcade GP. This also includes every Mario Party game that exists, and also the rest of the spin-offs and role-play games as well, RPGs. So since we got that out of the way, let's get down to the list. At number 80 with the worst Mario game in existence is Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. I don't even want to begin talking about this game. So, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, it's basically Mario Bros. 1 just a million times harder. And thing is, this was technically a Japanese exclusive or a Japanese release. The Americans basically got a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, but that game is just not fun to play. And what's worse, you have to beat the game 8 times without continuing to unlock the secret worlds. I just don't want to think about that game again. Number 79, Donkey Kong. Technically speaking, this is Mario's first appearance, and it's a mediocre one at that. You play as Mario, and you save a lady, or Pauline as she's called in certain ports of the game. I mean, it's nothing much, it's just the same 4 levels repeated over and over again. I will admit it does be a little interesting at some points. Number 78, Mario Clash. A lot of y'all may not know about Mario Clash, and that's because it was released on the Virtual Boy. But yeah, Mario Clash would have been a decent game, but with the colors being all in red and black, and it was on a weird depth perception 3D area, it just made no sense. Number 77, Mario Party Island Tour. We're getting into the games that are actually playable, and this one is one of the worst ones. Mario Party Island Tour lacks an identity like a lot of the other 3DS Mario Party games. I mean, the minigames were decent, but the boards were just so confusing in some ways, and I will give it credit for its bosses, but no. Just no. Number 76, Mario Party Top 100. So, here's the good thing about Top 100. It's 100 of Mario Party's minigames from Mario Party 1 through 10. The worst part about it, there's one lackluster board. The 100 minigames, some were good, some weren't. And there was just little time put into it. I mean, what was the point of it existing? Number 75, Mario Party 10. Mario Party 10 would have been a good game, but two things. One, it was on the Wii U. Two, it followed the same mechanics as Mario Party 9, and somehow made it even worse. Now, the minigames are fun like usual, but the boards themselves are linear, and that's not to mention the Bowser mode is just completely stupid because Bowser's OP. And there's an amiibo board where you can play regular Mario Party, but you need amiibo for that. Number 74, Mario Bros. Now, Mario Bros. Is the first Mario game as well, in a way you can think about it. But this had multiple versions of it, mainly being on the Game Boy Advance and Super Mario Advance, but the game has you basically jumping under enemies to knock them around and stuff, so it was way different than what we know and love today. The thing is, it's kind of lacking. I mean, yes, the difficulty does pick up, but the physics are a little janky at sometimes. Unless you're playing the Game Boy Advance version. Number 73, Mario Party 9. Mario Party 9, so basically, I regret even thinking about this one, because Mario Party 9, it has a lot of good minigames and introduced boss minigames. The problem? Everyone's in cars, there's no sense of strategy, it's very tedious. It would have done good, but it just flopped. Number 72, Mario Party Star Rush. The only reason, and I mean the only reason, Star Rush is above Mario Party 9 is because Star Rush actually has a little bit of decency within it. The only problem with Star Rush is that there's not that many minigames. The boss minigames are pretty good, but the rest of the game is just bland in some ways. You got modes which are like side games, and then you got the boards themselves and Toad Scramble. Which, yes, they are pretty big, but they feel so dry. Number 71, Paper Mario Sticker Star. I remember Sticker Star, and oh boy, I remember the random difficulty spikes in that game. And I remember in the Cooper Blooper fight, you were supposed to use the sponge, but I never knew that till after I beat him. So what was the point? There was no point. And Sticker Star would have been a good game, but it suffers way too many flaws besides random difficulty spiking. You also got things like no partners, no creative characters, and that's not to mention, the battle system was messed up with the stickers. Number 70, Super Mario Maker 3DS. If you own this game, you're probably just wanting to make some levels or something. There's no reason to play this game when you have Mario Maker and Mario Maker 2. I will give it credit that you can still make your own levels, but they removed a lot of key mechanics out of that game. Number 69, Mario Kart Tour. Mario Kart Tour would have been a very good mobile Mario Kart game, but there's a few problems. First, you have to have a Nintendo account. Secondly, the game itself is a little small. Third, there's too many paywalls. Fourth, loot boxes. Well, they're not really called loot boxes, but you pay rubies to get a random character or cart, so it's basically a gachapon. But yeah, I don't really want to think about that game anymore. Oy. Number 68, Mario Party Advance. Now, Advance is actually really decent of a handheld Mario Party game, and it's because it doesn't play like your usual Mario Party. The side quest is what you usually do when you collect all these gadgets. The gadgets themselves are decent, but the problem with Mario Party Advance is surprisingly the minigames this time. The minigames just feel so lackluster and dry. Like, you do the missions better than you do the minigames if you think about it. Number 67, Super Mario Run. This game would have been perfect for mobile too. The problem is that you pay $10 for so few levels. And yeah, it is free to play at first, but if you want the actual game, you gotta pay $10 for it. Like, I understand paying like 3 or 4, but 10? That's a little much, and all the game really is an auto runner. There's nothing much to it. 66, Super Mario Kart. This is the first Mario Kart game, and in all honesty, it's not one of my favorites. The tracks themselves were decent, and there was 5 laps instead of 3. The problem with it is that half the screen is the track, while the other half is the map. That would be something you'd see on a DS, but... I will give them credit for a decent character selection too, like Donkey Kong Jr. Number 65, Mario Kart Super Circuit. Basically, Mario Kart, well, 64 and Super Nintendo Mario Kart mixed in, kinda? This is on the Game Boy Advance, so, I mean, I will admit, Super Circuit has some creative tracks, and you can play all the Super Nintendo tracks in Super Circuit as well. The problem is that, well, the game, again, feels a little lackluster in some ways. Which I will give them credit, it was fun in some ways, but that's it. Some ways. Number 64, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit I never got to own, but I've seen like a few videos on it, and I will admit it looks fun, but also put some thought into it, it may not be as fun if you have a small room or small house. Because this is one of those Toys to Life things, so... Unless you have a big house and a lot of different things to do, you're not going to get much out of that game. Number 63, Paper Mario Color Splash. Color Splash kind of follows the same gimmick. It has Sticker Star in a few ways, but in another way, they kind of improve on it. Some of the characters actually have personality, but the battle system is more or less the same. So, yeah, there's that. Number 62, Super Mario Brothers. The one that technically started it all. It didn't age well, sadly, but I will give it credit for being one of the most original Mario games. You got your classic 3 power-ups, your classic enemies, classic music, classic Bowser, and the classic ending. Of course. Number 61, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. This is technically Mario Bros. 1, but on the Game Boy Color, and with a little bit more to do. And this game would have been the best retro remake. One problem, screen crunch. Since Mario Bros. Was originally on the NES, the screen crunch kinda ruined Mario Bros. Deluxe. And if it wasn't for the screen crunch, it would have been a really good retro remake. But I digress. Number 60, Super Mario Land. Technically the easiest Mario game in existence, because in order to 100% it, you just gotta beat all 12 levels. and I've beaten all 12 levels of Mario Land recently. Technically, the first game I ever 100%ed for Mario, but eh. But Mario Land, although being short, it is creative with a lot of its music and ideas. And this is the first game to basically introduce Daisy, so there's that. Number 59, Super Mario Party, the game where Mario Party started going back to its roots. The game still wasn't perfect as dice only went up to 6 and stars usually costed 10 coins per star. But they still did a little bit good, and they had a few side modes, but it was still a little too small. I will give them a lot of credit for the character selection though, 20 characters to choose from is insane. Number 58, New Super Mario Bros. 2. New Super Mario Bros. 2 would have been a very decent game if it wasn't for the fact that coins was the main gimmick. Which, yeah, if you collected 1,000,000 coins, you would get a little golden Mario statue, but if every time you collect 100 coins in any Mario game, you gain a life. In a new Super Mario Bros. Series, 1-ups meant absolutely nothing, so there's that. But I will give Super Mario Bros. 2 credit for at least being a decent game on the 3DS. Number 57, Mario Party 7. This is the GameCube era of Mario Party games I'm talking about, and Mario Party 7 didn't do the best. It sadly lacked a little bit of an identity, and, well, I will give them credit for the 8-player minigames. But then again, the minigames are usually good for almost any Mario Party game, except for Advance, but that's not the point. The point is that you had something great going, but you never fully expanded on it. Number 56, Mario Party 8. The first Wii Mario Party game, and technically the last of the classic Mario Parties. Mario Party 8 used a lot of Wii motion control stuff, but they used it to its best potential, like Shake It Up, Add the Chomp Wash, and a bunch of other motion-based games. So while Mario Party 8 wasn't the best Mario Party game per se, it did good enough until Mario Party 9 came out. Number 55, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Yep, I see the Wii game better than the 2DS game, and here's the reason why. Not only can you play up to with 4 players, the levels themselves feel a little bit bigger in some ways, and while it's still the same rehashed themes, the level design is somewhat creative. And the bosses are the Koopalings from Mario Bros. 3, but I don't know too much about it. But anywho, number 54, Mario Party 4. For Mario Party 4, it's a decent GameCube game, I'll give it that, but they could have done a few things better. The boards themselves are, of course, creative, but the running style is still the same in some ways, which doesn't make sense. But I will give them credit for the creative character, personalities, but it's still the same 8 characters from Mario Party 3. They shouldn't have just done that. They should have added a few more characters, in my opinion. Number 53, Mario Party 5. Mario Party 5 is basically after Mario Party 4, but they did a few things better in some ways. More characters like Boo, Koopa Kid, and Toad, as well as some different spaces like the DK spaces, which seemed like a bizarre choice. And of course, the Star Spirits from Paper Mario. You wouldn't expect them to make an appearance now, would ya? So I will give Mario Party 5 some points for creativity, but that's about it. Number 52, Super Mario Bros. 35. Yes, I'm even including Mario Bros. 35. Despite this game being temporary, it was decent. I sadly never got to play it, but seeing so many gameplay videos of it kinda makes me jealous. And sadly, since I never played it, I can't put it any higher or lower. The games that are usually lower on this list is games I played or know that are bad. So there's that. The games higher on the list are the games I have played and actually enjoyed. So moving on to number 51, New Super Mario Bros. U. It's on the Wii U. Technically a launch title too. I mean, they did a few things good, but, it's still a little lackluster. And I will admit, they did a lot good with the new power-up like the Super Acorn, but it's a new Super Mario Bros. Game. It's going to be slightly easier or slightly difficult. Number 50, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. This is the Switch port which introduced Toadette and Peachette, and it also added Nabbit, which basically makes all the game irrelevant because he's invincible. But the game still technically is the same, just with a few minor differences, like the removal of Boost Rush mode, and I forgot to mention this for the U game, but you can play as your Miis, but not in the main game. Number 49, Super Mario Land 2. Super Mario Land 2 was a weird game in my opinion, but it was pretty creative too, as it was on the Game Boy and had a hub world. And this is also the game that introduced Wario as a character to the Mario series. Ah, some good times those were. The game itself is kind of tricky, but it's still creative in so many ways that you wouldn't even imagine. Number 48, Mario 64 DS. A lot of people are going to be surprised that this game isn't near the top of the list, and here's the reason why. Mario 64 DS is a great game. New characters to play as, new stages, new modes, minigames. What's not to love? The biggest flaw. The biggest flaw being the controls. You control it with the D-pad or touchscreen and you have a run button. This is a 3D game, so yeah, if it wasn't for the crappy controls, this game would have been perfect. Number 47, Mario Kart 64. Ah, the memories I have with this Mario Kart. I really love going through DK Jungles or Calamari Desert or even Rainbow Road and Toad's Turnpike at sometimes. And while the game was beautiful, it hasn't aged the best, and the item balance is kind of weird. Now, the rubber banding I'm okay with, since that helps with difficulty, but when you get some weird items, it's really hard to time it. But it could just be me. Number 46, Super Mario 3D Land. Now, this is the first Mario Bros. On the 3DS, and if you ask me, this 3D Land gimmick was actually really good. Sure, it was really easy and all, but it helped with nostalgia as well in some ways, with the Tanuki suit. And yeah, the game itself was kind of short and kind of slow in some ways, but the creativeness of the Bowser fight itself as well. I mean, a 3D game on a small console like the 3DS was pretty impressive. Number 45, Paper Mario Origami King. I read my own handwriting. Paper Mario Origami King I've seen so much gameplay of, and it looks amazing. The only problem is the battle system itself, because there's no EXP gain, and it's a ring system. You also get partners, but they're temporary, you don't control them, and they may be teased every once in a while, so there's that. I will admit that the main villain, King Ollie, is pretty cool. I mean, that emo hairstyle, bro. Number 44, New Super Mario Bros. This is the original New Super Mario Bros. I'm talking about on the original DS. And yes, I do see this as the best of them. There was pretty creative bosses like Cheap Skipper and Lucky Thunder. There was many games that were exclusive to that port, and there was a two-player mode which was really good. I played it myself, so you know that it's a good game. It's just that it's on an inferior console, and the stuff doesn't usually work the best ways. But I digress. Number 43, Mario Kart 7. Mario Kart 7. It's a lame name. The game itself, though, was pretty awesome. The fact that you could switch out your car parts, a lot of good tracks were on it. Waluigi was missing for no reason. Like, why was that happening? But it just kind of lacked an identity. Like, it was able to be customized, but that was about it. I will admit the online was fun. Number 42, Super Paper Mario. So Super Paper Mario is basically Paper Mario mainly in 2D, and the main gimmick is that you can go from 2D to 3D. And the game's weirdly mainly a platformer. I mean, there is one RPG battle in it, as well as a bunch of other things, but it was too many different things at once. The story is really good with Count Bleck being the villain, and then Dimentio being the one pulling the strings. And Dimentio is one of my favorite spin-off villains. Him and Phantasmo. Those two will always be my favorite spin-off villains. Moving on from Super Paper Mario. Number 41, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Yes, the game's no longer being released, and 3D All-Stars would have been perfect. But there's a bunch of issues. If you know about the regular All-Stars, it had a lot of the retro games in it. 3D All-Stars had basically ports of Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, with a few improved controls. That's it. No updated textures or graphics, no updated music, nothing. It was basically ports of 3 games. And also, it had no Mario Galaxy 2, no 3D Land, nothing, basically. But I will give it credit because it did give you a soundtrack with the game, if that even counts for anything. Number 40, Mario Luigi Paper Jam. Ah yes, the Mario RPG series, and Paper Jam is my least favorite. I never really played it myself, but even then, it doesn't look all that interesting. The attacks look cool, but that's really about it for me. Number 39, Mario & Luigi Dream Team. Ah, here's a game I'm more familiar with. It's a bit slow-paced, sadly, but I will give it credit for its creativity with Dreamy Luigi and a lot of the different attacks. And I love the giant bosses myself as they kind of recreate it from Bowser's Inside Story. But like I said, the game is somewhat slow-paced at some times, and there's a bunch of forced tutorial. Number 38, Mario Party 6. This, in my opinion, is the best GameCube Mario Party game ever. The mic minigames were awesome, the day and night cycles were cool, the boards were fun to play on, DK and Bowser swapping around during day and night. I mean, it was chaotic fun. I can only explain it as chaotic fun. And while chaos isn't the best thing, if it's fun, it's fun. But it lacked a little bit of an identity itself as well, as the older Mario Party games like 1 through 3 had a bit more going for it besides the Sun and Moon. Number 37, Mario Party DS. I've actually recently played a little bit of Mario Party DS, and it's decent enough. There's 5 boards, a bunch of side puzzles, and even boss battles. And no, not just Bowser. Other boss battles like Piranha Plant, the Hammer Bro, Kamek, and even Dry Bones. But of course, this is on a handheld, and some of it just felt a little small. No pun intended. Number 36, Mario Party Superstars. A modern Mario Party game where it's basically back at its original roots. Dice are now 1 through 10, there's 5 boards from Mario Parties 1 through 3 to choose, there's 105 mini games from Mario Parties 1 through 10, and a lot of different music is remixed too. The sad thing is, it kind of misses the mark with its side modes. Like, they focus so much on the main mode and the minigames themselves that they kind of forgot about other things. But let's hope the next Mario Party would do perfect. Hopefully. And then after that... Number 35, Super Mario Maker. This is technically the most creative attempt at a Mario game, as you get to make the levels yourselves. Now, while there might be a bunch of trolls out there is some good levels out there, and there's a slight challenge out there too called the Mario 100 Challenge. And the amiibo costumes are pretty fun too, but you need amiibo for most of those, unless you unlock them. Thank goodness you can unlock the costumes. Number 34, Super Mario Advance. Super Mario Bros. 2, but on the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, the name is kinda dumb, and all it is Mario Bros. 2 with the OG Mario Bros. Slapped into it. But the game itself is decent. It's just Super Mario Bros. 2 now a screen crunch in my opinion. Speaking of, number 33, Super Mario Bros. 2. This is the regular version, and this is mainly just a reskin of Doki Doki Panic. But the game itself is awesome, in some ways. I mean, you can float around with Peach, you pick up enemies and throw them instead of just jumping on them. Hearts are basically your new form of HP, and Birdo is basically a main staple in this game. Yep, this is Birdo's first appearance, and Wart's first appearance too, and Mauser, if y'all ever watched the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, he first appeared in Mario Bros. 2 before the show. Oh boy. Number 32, Mario Party. This is the original Mario Party we're talking about, and while it is one of the better ones, it's my least favorite out of the N64 bunch. It's more luck-based than skill-based, and yet while that's common for Mario Party, it feels way too implemented in Mario Party 1. I will give credit for most of the minigames. There is a few minigames where you gotta rotate the controller stick, and oh my goodness, the pain, I still remember the pain. But yeah, it's a decent game overall. Number 31, Mario & Luigi Partners in Time. This is kind of an underrated game in some ways, but also forgotten too. It lacked a little bit of an identity, but still had great story in it. And while it felt slow-paced sometimes, having both regular and Baby Mario & Luigi just felt special in some ways. But that's all I can say about that game, as I haven't got to play it myself yet. Number 30, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. This is basically the Superstar Saga game now in full 3D, and an extra game mode's been added called Bowser's Minions, which... why does this exist? Number 29, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Now this is the OG Game Boy Advance version we're talking about, and this also had Mario Bros. Part of it, but that's not what we're here for. The main game itself is pretty weird. First, Peach gets her voice stolen, then it's up to the Mario Bros. To get it back. Bowser kinda helps you out too, but that's very temporary, as you'll have to go through the Bean Kingdom and basically do a bunch of things to take down Queen Cackletta. And oh boy, Fawful is quite the character in this game. But we'll get onto Fawful a bit more later. Moving on to number 28, Mario Party 2. Mario Party 2 was another decent N64 Mario Party game. The main problem I have with it is that the way you technically beat the game is a little too easy. Basically, the way you beat this one is that you play all the boards once. In Mario Party 1, you had to collect 100 stars throughout the boards, or at least all players have to. In Mario Party 3, there's a story, but in Mario Party 2, the way you just beat this game is just play each board once. That's it. But the minigames are awesome, the boards are fun to be on, the costumes are funny, the cutscenes are interesting. So I will give it credit for creativity. Number 27, Super Mario Advance 2, or Super Mario World on the Game Boy Advance. I'm not really going to talk about this one much since there's a better version out there like number 26, Super Mario World. Yep, Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, baby. This revolutionized Mario in a little bit, because he was able to spin jump, Yoshi appeared as a rideable character, the cape feather existed, yes, there was a power balloon which was kinda dumb, but still cool, I guess. And of course, while the story may be still the same, the small amount of detail is really great. Number 25, Super Mario Advance 3, or Yoshi's Island on Game Boy Advance. I'm not really going to talk about this one much either, because there is another version of it. Number 24, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. That's the full name of it, and while Yoshi's Island can be considered both Mario and mainly Yoshi, I'm including it on this list because, it's a Mario game, technically. Basically, you play as Yoshi and bring Mario back to his brother. You'll encounter a bunch of weird enemies and fight Baby Bowser. And that's really about it. Number 23, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. This game recently just got remade, and the reason why I have it as low as I do is sadly because I never played it. Like, I've heard so much great things about The Thousand Year Door, and it probably would have been in the top 10 if I would have known more about it. But it stays at number 23, sadly. Number 22, Mario Kart Wii. This Mario Kart game was interesting to say the least. The way that you moved with motion controls, the huge roster, the items being somewhat creative, but it kind of lacked a little bit of an identity because, well, 12 racers at once was a little too much for that time. The battle mode was way too quick, and that's not to mention the items. You had new items like, the Power Block, which was easy to time. Then you got things like the Thundercloud, which makes you wonder, why does that even exist? Overall, Mario Kart Wii could have done a lot better, but it did decent enough. Number 21, Mario & Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Adventure. I'm not even going to talk about this version because the better version's out there, but the 3DS version is slower paced and they have another side mode of Bowser Jr.'s Adventure, which again does not need to exist. Holy, number 20, Mario & Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story. This is the original DS version, and it is way better. And the story is that Mario and Luigi are now inside Bowser, and they basically gotta help Bowser out while Bowser is trying to do what he needs to do to progress through the journey. I don't know much about the plot armor in this game, but Fawful is technically the main villain. Yep, Fawful from the first Mario and Luigi game, he's returned, and he is now the main villain. Just wow. But the game overall is really fun, and if you know what you're doing with the bros moves, it's even better. But this is not really the best game out there, although I will admit it's one of the better RPGs. Number 19, Mario Kart 8. I've never played the original Mario Kart 8. I have its deluxe version, but Mario Kart 8 would have been a little bit better if there was a better battle mode, I guess. Also, a lot of racers were missing, but the courses themselves were somewhat decent. But, anywho, it's basically a little dry in some ways. But since it is this up high on the list, I will give it credit for trying. But there is a better Mario Kart 8 out there. I'll get to that in a minute. Mario 18, Super Mario All-Stars. This is basically every Mario game on the NES into one big package. Mario Brothers, Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels. Oh my goodness. But it's all in 16-bit. Some of the graphics are really good, and that's not to mention your movement's a little bit better, but it doesn't really change too much. Although I will admit it did get a release on the Wii, and it had a big box version, but who even cares? Number 17. Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. Yep, this existed, and only reason why I'm putting it above the original All-Stars is because Super Mario World's been added in. That's it. Number 16, Super Mario 3D World. 3D World, despite it being, kind of short-witted in some ways, 3D World was one of the best Wii U games out there. Because Super Mario 3D World, introduced the double cherry and the cat suit. It even introduced Cat Bowser, which was just too darn adorable for its own good. But even then, it still had a bunch of good going for it despite it having some flaws. No game's perfect, trust me, but I have my personal favorites. And this one, although may not be the best, is still a decent one to be the best. Number 15, Super Mario Sunshine. I'd never played a lot of this game. I do have one memory of playing it, but not too much. The game itself, though, is pretty fun, the levels are kind of huge, and the FLUDD pack's really fun to use, so there's that. But the game itself is weird. You got Shadow Mario, who's really Bowser Jr., and you got King Boo, which looks weird. And that's not to mention, some of the bosses are either too easy or too hard, but I digress. Super Mario Sunshine is quite the time if you know what you're doing. Number 14, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is a weird name, especially considering this is a Remake Plus edition for the Switch. I won't go over 3D World again, but Bowser's Fury is a new game where you and Bowser Jr. team up to take down Fury Bowser, and the final battle has you battling him while as Golden Goku Cat Mario. That's kind of a lot to say, but it's still pretty cool if you ask me. But Bowser's Fury could have done a little bit more too, because a lot of the shines, or cat shines, kind of repeat themselves. Number 13, Super Mario Bros. 3. Yep, Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of the better retro games, but it kind of lacked a little bit of identity in some ways, as well as be way too darn long for its own good. And that's not to mention, there's no way of saving unless you use warp whistles to beat the game quicker. That's it. But, I mean, it's quite the fun time. The airship levels, the Koopalings, the story in it, the princess trolling you for no reason. Anywho, but number 12, Super Mario Advance 4 or Super Mario Bros. 3 on the Game Boy Advance. The only reason, and I mean the only reason I have the Advance version above the original is because the Advance version has technical DLC content. If you own a Game Boy Advance and you have an e-reader, you can scan your e-reader cards to play levels. But if you own Virtual Console on the Wii U, or if you have it on your Switch with the Nintendo Switch Online, all of the DLC levels are automatically on there, which makes things a whole lot better, and I've played a few of the levels myself. So there's that. Number 11, Super Mario RPG. The first of the Mario RPGs happened to be one of his better ones. You got like your classic moves, you got cool partners like Geno and Mallow. The weird events in the game were pretty fun too, and you also had that reference with Mario finding Peach's, yeah. Number 10, Mario Party 3. We're in the top 10, y'all, and these are one of my favorite games. Mario Party 3. It's pretty awesome. Despite the Game Guy minigames being kind of screwy at sometimes, the rest of the game is awesome. It has 3 save files, a story mode, 8 characters instead of 6, cool new items. What isn't there to ask for? I mean, sure it has its flaws, but even then, a lot of the flaws are overlooked. Number 9, Mario Kart DS. I've never fully beaten this game, but I've played all the cups at least once, all the battle tracks a bunch, and I've even heard that there's Rob as a playable character, which, it's a random choice, but it's a cool one at that. But even then, some of the tracks felt a little too short in some ways. But they did have a lot of good retro tracks as well, and a bunch of new good original ones like Waluigi Pinball and TikTok Clock. Those two are my personal favorites from the DS. Number 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is Mario Kart 8, but way more. And I recently bought the DLC, and, well, I didn't buy the DLC, it's part of the Nintendo Switch Online expansion. But either way, the tracks were so awesome, and the fact that Waluigi Pinball is part of it too really makes me happy. It's basically Mario Kart 8, but with improved controls, more characters, more courses, and an actually good battle mode. That's all I can really say about that one, but number 7. Mario Galaxy. The original Mario Galaxy was awesome. The fact that you could basically walk on almost anything, the bosses were really creative, the galaxies were really fun, and while it did have a few flaws, like I said, a lot of these good games can have their flaws overlooked if you look hard enough. Number 4. Well, no, my bad. We're not number 4. Number 6. I'm about to skip ahead, y'all. Number 6. Super Mario Maker 2. It's Mario Maker again, but a better story in some ways, a lot more level designing. 3D World was kind of implemented in it, a bunch of remixes for the older games, like a desert song for Super Mario Brothers. I listen to that track sometimes, and oh my goodness, it sounds like it could work. And while, like I said, there's more trolling in there than there usually would be, Mario Maker 2 still has a great identity as being one of the best creative games out there for Mario. Number 5, Mario Kart Double Dash. I've never played Double Dash, but seeing how it is and all the special items in the tracks, oh my goodness, it is one of my personal favorites, even if I've never played it. The battle mode is decent. There's land play, which allows up to 16 actual human players. The fact that there's 2 people in a cart. The special items are cool too, like the fireball, the heart, the Yoshi, and the Birdo egg. There's so many great things to love. Number 4, Mario Galaxy 2. This is Mario Galaxy with a little more added to it. The hub world is smaller, but that's not the worst to happen. The motion controls are a bit more responsive in this game in some ways, as well as there being more creative bosses. Instead of it just being Dino Piranha, it's Baby Piranha or Pee-wee Piranha. And while the game does have a little bit more easier areas than usual, it's still fun to play no matter what. Number 3, Mario Odyssey. I've been playing a lot of Mario Odyssey, and despite this being more modern, it is one of my favorite modern Mario games. So, I have to give credit where credit is due. The worlds are huge, some moments do feel linear, but they're more optional than anything. The bosses are somewhat creative, it being rabbits instead of the Koopalings. I mean, what's not to love about this game? And even then, after you beat the game, Mario goes to Peach's castle from Mario 64 and you unlock Yoshi, which is really good. Number 2, Paper Mario. This is the OG Paper Mario, and while there's a lot of bugs and glitches that I have not discovered, the game itself has a decent story, great partners, a great battle system, and it has experience points. Same goes for the Thousand Year Door in Super Paper Mario, but in Paper Mario, your experience points are actually pretty good. Because every time you level up, you can either upgrade your health, your flower points, or your badge slots. And let's get into the badges, as these can really help you in a lot of ways. And this is where the Star Spirits first appeared in, which you may remember them from Mario Party 5, but eh. The Star Spirits are really useful too once you save them. They can heal you from any status effect, they can stun the enemy for a while, they can just completely annihilate the competition if you just let them to. Number 1. Super Mario 64. This is the first video game I have ever played, and it is one of my personal favorite Mario games to this day. The fact that you move around in a 3D spacing, collecting stars, saving Princess Peach in a castle setting, the bonus areas, the caps themselves. Oh my goodness, I could go on and on and on about what I love about Mario 64. And I will admit, the camera control is not the best in the world. But even then, if you don't mind the camera, this is actually a really great 3D game, as this is one of the most original 3D games out there, as this was technically Nintendo's first 3D game. Holy smokes! And the fact this is on my favorite console, Nintendo 64, just makes me even happier. That's all I got today, fam. And like I said, I didn't include every Mario game up to date. Like I said, I don't know much about Wonder. I didn't include either Rabbids game because that's kind of mixed IP. And same goes for the Mario and Sonic titles, as those are mixed IP as well. I also didn't include the sports titles as they kind of lacked their own identity, as they were just sports games but Mario-fied in some way. But anywho, that's all I have for today, fam. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know you want me to rank next, and I'll see y'all guys next time. This is Gamer Eddie. Peace out.